When we built this bus, we thought, let's find something big, something we can live in comfortably and not feel like all cramped up, you know. So we looked at some vans. We thought, live in a van, it would only really be a short-term thing. So we bought something big. We've got a nice queen-size bed up the back. We've got air conditioning. We can run off our batteries. We can make coffee in the morning with our Nespresso machine. Hopefully we can get a couple of years of living out of it. It makes sense that it took us 2 years to build it. It makes sense to live in it for 2 years as well. So, but we'll see how we go.
I think the biggest thing that we weren't anticipating when we first bought the bus was how long everything was going to take. We planned 6 months, but it ended up taking 2 years. It was so naive with our timeline, but even these day beds, welding up the steel frames and then cutting out the pieces of wood to fit around the outsides of them perfectly, the hinges, the gas struts, the couch sort of foam, and then making the covers for those, it all took so much longer than we were anticipating. But I think taking that time to make sure that everything was perfect definitely has paid off now. What inspired us to convert the bus into a tiny home? Well, I think both of us have always wanted to do it. I mean, I always thought of doing it on sort of a combi van kind of scale, but Harry's a kind of go big or go home kind of person, so we've ended up with a 40-foot school bus. It's been amazing. I think both of us had things in our lives that made us realise that life's way too short to not go out there and do things and live our lives.
So what was the hardest part about this building process? So for us, there was a whole lot of things we were doing for the first time, you know, electrics, solar, batteries, plumbing. These are all things we had never had to, you know, deal with before, sort of thing. So a whole lot of time on YouTube, a whole lot of time on Facebook forums, and just asking friends and family for advice. So it took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it's really paid off, because now if anything breaks, which, you know, fingers crossed, nothing too bad is broken yet.
Nothing's too wrong yet.
Yeah, we can fix it ourselves. So we've got all the tools and equipment to, you know, rebuild and fix these things. And it's worked out pretty well for us so far.
The best part about living on the bus is it's our home, and it gets to come everywhere with us, and it's big enough to be able to tow our car and our boat as well. So we've got all of the toys, but you know, after a long day of driving, go and get a drink of water, you can have a shower, you can go get a cold beer out of the fridge, or just go straight to bed. You know, you can go anywhere, and you can park right on the beach, and you've got the beach right on your doorstep. And probably thinking that we'd never be able to afford $1 million views and having the beach right on our doorstep, but we're doing it. We've got it nearly every time that we stop somewhere, so that's really amazing.
Alright, so some advice for people that are wanting to do a conversion themselves. I think step one is to work out what you actually want. The bus itself is 40 feet, and then we've got the trailer behind it, so it does give us some restrictions, but where we live in Australia doesn't really make too much of a difference. So we've travelled now for 2.5 months. We haven't not got into anywhere we want to get to. So the other thing is connecting with people in your local area. So for us, doing the conversion process, going from a bus to a motorhome was a bit tricky with our local regulations. So we found another group who had just done it, and then we basically just copied exactly what they'd done. So that made life really, really easy for us. And finally, being financially set up to do it. So basically, we set a budget when we started, and then as we worked out what we actually needed, we realised we wanted quality rather than just cheap. So our budget sort of just stepped up on each purchase, which wasn't great, but we were both working full time at the time, so we could kind of manage it by sort of extending the duration of our build. That was, you know, a win for us, because now we're on holidays, just travelling around. We're not too financially restrained. Give it a few months' time, we'll have to go find some work and restock the bank balances. So we'll see how we go.